Now, as we do during an election year, we always have a poll. We had one in February. We're going to update our poll right now. You know the rules. We pretend that the general election in November is tomorrow. We cannot wait for the conventions. We cannot wait for any more polls. So, if the election were to be held tomorrow, how many in here right now would vote for Jesse Jackson? All right, keeping it going, the momentum here. The election be held tomorrow. How many would vote for Governor Michael Dukakis? The election be held tomorrow. How many would vote for Vice President George Bush? Let me hear the Dukakis one again, please. Let me hear the Dukakis one. Now the Bush one. Well, y'all work it out yourselves. I'm out of here tomorrow. So far, I think Dukakis had the edge, but it's only April in Buffalo, and as is always the case in the general election, you folks in Alaska and Hawaii were out of it again. I'm sorry. So you can go back to bed. Anyway, whoever is the winner, they will have to face a $2 trillion national debt and a $1 trillion budget, and I don't understand how this stuff works. Do you? I do not. Where does the money come from? $2 trillion, you know, I told you before, if you stood on top of the payment book, you would experience weightlessness. I'll never know. If I was an economist, I wouldn't understand it. If I was an economist, I'd probably understand it less than I do now. How did we go from the Depression in the 30s when we were broke, right? How did we go from that overnight to fighting World War II? How we do that? I could never figure that out. Germany, the end of World War I, Germany was on its keister. To use a phrase in economics, Germany, they were on their keister. Their money was so worthless that they literally had to carry it around in baby carriages. So what did they do? They turned those baby carriages into tanks, and they conquered Europe, just like that, right? Before World War II, the United States was on its keister. We had a devastating depression. They sold apples on the street corner. What did they do? They turned those apples into bombers, and they conquered Germany and Japan, just like that, just like that. And then after World War II, Japan was on its keister. Their only exports were those little paper umbrellas. What did they do? They turned the umbrellas into Toyotas, and they conquered the United States. So by 1981, the United States was back on its keister. We had a $70 billion deficit, but what did they do? They tripled the deficit and conquered Grenada. Now, I've always had a great respect for Japan. I really have. You know, they gave us those Japanese cherry trees that were in full bloom in Washington a few weeks ago. The turn of the century, they just gave them to us, all these beautiful Japanese cherry blossoms. Why did they do that? Because they knew that we would want to take pictures of them. Well, we are having a lovely spring in Washington, and of course, a couple of weeks ago, we were all taking bets in Washington about what would be coming out first, the cherry blossoms or Ed Meese. It's like a Wild West movie where the sheriff's posse surrounds the Justice Department. All right, Ed, are you coming out? Or do we call the sheriff? Ed sticks his head out the window and says, "Go home, you idiots. I'm the sheriff." Cannot avoid it. Every little breeze seems to whisper Ed Meese. I'm down on my knees in gratitude for Ed Meese. His lawyers have said that defending Ed is steady employment. I'll say this for Meese, we have never been bored. Our faith in the shady is ever restored. There must be a lifetime achievement award. Let's give it to Ed. And what about the Wedtech scandal? Was that pipeline Ed's concern? Is his blind trust 2020? Pick a number, wait your turn. Attorney generals come and they go, it is said. Few are remembered after they're dead. If you like John Mitchell, you gotta love it. Tradition with it. Thank you. We are not here to indict anyone. No, indeed. Speaking of that, there have been 4 indictments in the Iran-Gate story. They've indicted North, Poindexter, Secord, and Hakim, and they are accused of allegedly running an enterprise which generated $40 million, and $3.4 million of that was sent in aid to the Contras. That is not aid, that is low overhead, in my opinion. I mean, you know, they were charged with defrauding the government, they should have been charged with defrauding the Contras. But anyway, the rumor is that eventually the president will pardon North and Poindexter. All right, but what about poor Hakim? Is this discrimination or what? If you'd like to help, make out a check or money order payable to Millionaire Iranian Rogue Entrepreneur Legal Defense Fund, Box 9, Box 10, Box 11, Box 12, and 13, Bank of Zurich, Switzerland. This is not a show without compassion as we reach out to Mr. Hakim. I'll take you home again, Hakim. No sympathy for you revealed. While North gets such respect, you seem to be the Rodney Dangerfield. While Reagan praised the other two, revealing where he's coming from, left you and Secord holding hands and singing, we shall overcome. Hakim, I'll help you all I can. You are the least known, it would seem, if you're deported to Iran. They will take you home again.
Mark Russell came to you live from the Catherine Cornell Theater, State University of New York at Buffalo.
The Mark Russell comedy special was produced by WNED Buffalo, which is solely responsible for its content. Funding for this program was provided by this station and by other public television stations. For an audio cassette of tonight's program, send a check or money order for $7 to Mark Russell Cassette, program number 1302, Post Office Box 4000, Buffalo, New York, 14240. Please do not send cash. Allow 6 weeks for delivery.